From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. The 2020 vote. Montanans have some huge decisions to make this November. The pandemic kept people from going to the polls in the primary, but it certainly didn't keep them from voting, as the state's first ever all mail-in election brought a record turnout. Will the November 3rd general election also be decided by mail-in ballots only? County election officials in Montana are saying the time to decide is now, and they've asked Governor Bullock to give them that power as he did for the primary election. MTN's chief political reporter Mike Dennison has the story.
It may seem like a long time until the general election, 14 weeks to be precise. But for the people who conduct the election, it's not.
If we're looking at a mail ballot election, that means more envelopes. That means increased capacity to process mail ballots. That means looking at if postage is covered or not on the return envelopes. And those are things that take time to plan for.
And that's why last Friday, Montana's local election officials formally asked Governor Bullock to allow them to choose an all-mail ballot for the general election, or not, and to give them that power no later than August 10th. McHugh said if that power is granted, she'll be recommending Lewis and Clark County go to all-mail ballots, as did every Montana county for the primary election. She also says across the state, county election officials are finding that the coronavirus pandemic is upending the election landscape. Many of the usual polling places may be inaccessible to the public, and counties say they doubt they can find enough election judges to be at the polls. Under his emergency powers, Bullock can supersede election laws and allow counties to choose all-mail ballots. His office says he'll be consulting with election and health officials and political leaders from both parties before making the call. McHugh says the primary election provided a good test run for an all-mail statewide election, and it was mostly positive.
When we did the primary election by mail ballot, it was safe, it was effective. We had higher turnout than we normally do. So we think given the circumstances and the time frame, that would be the best way to conduct the general election.
And something else to keep in mind that argues for an early decision. In a general election with a presidential race, in Montana, usually at least 200,000 more people vote than in the primary. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
The all-mail primary election had a record turnout for a primary here in Montana, breaking the old record by almost 90,000 ballots. Well, the state of Montana reports another 5 coronavirus deaths today, bringing the statewide total to 52 now. One of those deaths, a man in his 40s here in Yellowstone County, the first time a person that young has died in the county. Custer County also reported the deaths of 2 people over the age of 65. Those are the first COVID-related deaths in Custer County. The other 2 deaths, a man in his 50s from Gallatin County and a person from Lincoln County. In all, the state reported 94 new COVID cases this morning. Yellowstone County added 17 new cases. Nearly 500 of those are still active. Meanwhile, tonight, Bighorn County reported 16 new cases, 10 of which are considered community spread, as there's no clear connection to a positive case. 62 patients are currently hospitalized across the state. More than 2,200 people have now recovered from the virus. Governor Steve Bullock sent his condolences to Montanans after the latest 5 deaths, saying, with over 50 deaths in the state now, these losses continue to weigh heavily on our hearts, while our seniors and immunocompromised individuals remain the most vulnerable. Even otherwise healthy Montanans experience life-altering and sometimes deadly outcomes when they face this virus. Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon stopped short of issuing a mandatory mask order today. Rather, he's relying on Wyoming residents to take responsibility for ensuring the state stays open for business, as Governor Gordon challenged everyone to do their best to slow the spread of COVID-19. The state reported 64 new confirmed COVID cases, its highest daily increase so far. Wyoming now has 521 active cases, a marked increase from just 2 weeks ago when active cases were below 300. One new COVID-related death was also reported today, bringing Wyoming's total to 26. Gordon also took time to address the state's budget deficit, now estimated at $759 million. Well, that's an improvement from May. The state's economy is still reeling from the pandemic, and the governor implored all Wyoming citizens to do their part to keep the economy afloat.
It's really simple. If you're just dead set on taking down Wyoming's economy, don't wear these. Make sure that you put these on as you feel comfortable and you can, because these are the things that are going to keep us open.
Now, Governor Gordon also discussed a spike in COVID cases at the state penitentiary in Rawlins. 2 weeks of testing prison staff and inmates resulted in 15 confirmed cases, 8 of those among inmates who have since been isolated from the prison's general population. Well, the Billings School District faces the same challenges as schools across the country in bringing students safely back to the classroom. Tomorrow, Billings School District 2 officials will provide more details about what's being done for student safety locally. Q2's Mitch Legge has more.
Tomorrow at 3 p.m., the Billings School Board will get a look at the superintendent's plan to get kids safely back in the classroom. The superintendent has worked with officials from the local hospitals as well as county public health to craft the procedures. And the public will get a more detailed look than they did at a board meeting last week. Superintendent Greg Upham told me over the phone today that the plan will be reviewed in draft form at the meeting tomorrow. Upham revealed last week that the school will be offering both in-person and online classes in the fall, with online enrollment prioritized first to students and staff with health risks. And those students in those physical classrooms will be required to wear masks for a majority of their day. We also expect to learn more at the meeting tomorrow, including whether students will stay in one classroom throughout the day. Also, how recess, lunches, and busing will function on campus. More information is expected about the specific curriculum of classes for online students, including whether some sort of live video instruction may be included. Q2 will be broadcasting the board meeting tomorrow, starting at 3 o'clock on our Facebook page. Tune in there for the latest. Another topic of discussion at that meeting will be whether or not fans will be allowed inside school sporting events. Casey Conlon will have more details later in sports. Reporting in Billings, I'm Mitch Legge, MTN News.
All right, thanks, Mitch. And if you're not able to catch the meeting tomorrow, we'll have all the details right here on Q2 at 5:30 and also on our website, ktvq.com. All right, turning to Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire. And Bob, Mother Nature providing some fireworks tonight with a little bit of lightning and rain out there.
Yeah, got a little rain in the Billings area. Now, earlier, the storms and rains are coming from the south. They didn't reach the Billings area. But you'll notice tonight on the Doppler radar, those rain showers are coming from the east. They're actually coming from another direction. That's why the rain is already starting to make its way into the Billings area. And then you notice when we go upslope at Red Lodge, the rainfall actually becomes a little bit heavier out there because the upslope conditions actually enhance rain development, not inhibit it. So that's what's happening out there tonight. And why is it going over there? Well, let me show you what's happening out here. We have a low pressure cell that's over Yellowstone National Park and is drawing all that moisture into it. So that's what's happening. Now, once all this moisture leaves us by tomorrow afternoon, look what's moving in the northwest. That's a heat advisory, and that stays with us from noon on Thursday till about 8 p.m. Friday. You can see temps getting into the 100 to the 100 teens in some places. We'll see if it gets that hot here, but probably not that hot. But it is going to be warming up. We'll have more about that coming up in a few more minutes.
All right, thank you, Bob. A video pushed by both President Trump and his son, Don Jr., has been removed from Twitter, Facebook, and other platforms because of misleading claims. The video from a group calling themselves America's Frontline Doctors promoted the use of the malaria drug hydroxychloroquine, which one of the doctors said she's used successfully to treat hundreds of people in Nigeria. The president was asked about it at a news conference this afternoon.
The woman that you said was a great doctor in that video that you retweeted last night said that masks don't work and there is a cure for COVID-19, both of which health experts say is not true. She's also made videos saying that doctors make medicine using DNA from aliens and that they're trying to create a vaccine to make you immune from becoming religious.
Well, maybe it's the same, maybe it's not, but I can tell you this. She was on air along with many other doctors. They were big fans of hydroxychloroquine, and I thought she was very impressive in the sense that from where she came, I don't know which country she comes from, but she said that she's had tremendous success with hundreds of different patients, and I thought her voice was an important voice, but I know nothing about her.
Masks don't work.
Yeah,
Last week you said masks. Last week, well, real quick. Last week you said
thank you very
masks
much, everybody. Thank you.
On the COVID relief bill, you said masks.
Also today, a contentious hearing that lasted for more than 5 hours as Attorney General William Barr faced a House Judiciary Committee. Democrats pressed Barr on whether he was doing the president's bidding in federal cases involving Roger Stone and Michael Flynn. He was also questioned on the deployment of federal officers to U.S. cities to quell unrest while ignoring armed militias who took over Michigan's capital. Barr defended the decision to take on protesters in Portland, saying local police were not doing their job. Still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news here on Q2, a surprise bear attack leaves one Montana man in the hospital. Well, the details of a frightening situation. And in sports, high school athletes and coaches thrilled with yesterday's announcement to move forward with a fall sports season. Scott will have more reaction.